Chapter 11. One Step Away. One step into darkness, and then another, until suddenly Zale stood upon a cobblestone surface under the light of day. He recognized this place. It was the market square of Warvonia, completely empty and utterly quiet. Boomer's presence helped him realize that this was not just some hallucination, nor was it a vision of the past. "What is the meaning of this?" he asked quietly. The ground rumbled, the onset of a tremor. Boomer chattered in alarm. Zale stumbled from the shock and then took off down one of the connecting streets. There were establishments he recognized, others he did not. Some he expected to find, only to see that it was something else entirely. Where he expected a cobbler, he found a blacksmith. Where he expected an eatery, he found a grimy-looking candle shop. The Wench's Tavern sign was where he expected, but the front entrance was boarded shut. The entire street rippled underneath, the old stones welling like a tidal wave, knocking Zale to his back, a black sky in his sight overhead. When he stood, he was elsewhere. Grassy knolls surrounded him, and as the hills contoured toward sea level, a dilapidated town spanned the view below. The land was ruptured as though meteors had been raining down in droves. The air was extremely quiet, the sound of desertion. Something erupted from the ground. Boomer screamed, and Zale yelped. It appeared as a black mist, rising up and fading into the sky. Moments later, wails pierced the air. Whitish, wispy apparitions flew above them and throughout the streets of the town below. A black mist burst from the ground where he stood. It flew through his face and gave him a strong sensation of oncoming death. His vision flashed, and a moment later he was in a different plaza. He identified this as Charm Square, built within a massive crater in the center of the kingdom's capital city of Miskoon. All around a towering central rostrum were thousands of stone-faced citizens, humans mostly, but also with a scattering of grimkins and anthropods. And one thing more. Gathered amongst these civilian races were white, wispy apparitions, this time with a bit more form. It signified to Zale that they had gained status in the civilization, a greater acceptance of sorts, perhaps a legitimization as something undead now gaining vitality. It was horrific in every sense, like their vitality had come at the expense of the people and would for all generations to come. A single figure stood upon the central rostrum, dressed in the full splendor of royalty and riches untold. The person's face was concealed within the darkness of a cowl. All the populace revered this person. All hung on his every word. "Is this the king?" Zale asked. Boomer shrugged.
"Dunno, Rakaka."
The man in the center spoke, raising his arms up high.
"Amidst your certain doom, I am your savior. Where the lineage of kings has failed, I shall prevail. Even as the light weakens, like a guttering candle, fear not, for I bring new light, a light of the beyond, an anti-light. And with it shall be a great sense of purpose, such as the light of Elo, who has forgotten you, could never achieve."
And the masses, their faces devoid of all emotion, were made to bow to him in reverence. Zale's mind spun as he found himself back within the chamber of the Grimstone. He felt cold all the way to his bones, and a shiver crawled up his spine because of the visions he had just seen. "The writing said we had walked in the past," he said quietly. Boomer watched him with wide eyes. "That was the Shadow Age we walked through to get here. The past. What we just saw, it said that was what comes last. Could that be the future? A possible future because of the Grimstone?" The wall to his left let out a great rumble, like the turning of millstones. The words that had been there before were gone, replaced by something different. "Now, McPherson, thy namesake may ye claim. The Grimstone sought for virtue, fortune, or fame. Is this my true treasure, this thing they call mine? Or is there one greater that we've left to find? Untold riches and power, now can ye take. My greatest treasure I must no longer forsake. Unto thy hands the Grimstone we entrust. Knowing its potential, do with it what ye must. Another torch kindled on the wall, this time showing a rather crude picture of an adult man holding the hand of a young girl. Beneath it were the words, "Behold, the treasure of Macpherson." Zale cracked a smile. It seems old Macpherson was also a family man. With the Grimstone secured away, perhaps he went on to retire.
Yay!
Said Boomer thoughtfully.
Hoo-hum, kakapop rakaka.
Yeah, Zale replied gently. A human pup. The translucent orb faded. Remaining atop the pedestal was the cylindrical object, the protection of Zale's ancestors, now removed. He approached the pedestal and looked down at the cylinder, which was about the size of a common building brick. The scenes he'd just lived replayed in his mind. If what we saw can be considered reliable, then this object could shake the very foundations of my kingdom. Maybe even far beyond that. Boomer looked back at him and gave a slow nod. But if the light of the land is truly fading, and this can save it, then it seems this thing is not only valuable, but essential. He thought back to the crowd gathered in the capital city, bowing to their new ruler. And yet, if by saving the light, civilization is turned into subservient zombies, what kind of a future is that for my daughter, or my grandkids, or anyone? Zale had never felt so morally conflicted over a bounty during the entirety of his long, successful career. For any other job, it was at this point that he would have just grabbed it and run, making haste back to their client for delivery and payment. This job, by now, and really right from the start, had become more personal for him than any before. Old Macpherson probably intended this, Zale said. Make you question your motives for taking it, and maybe you'll think twice about proceeding. He grabbed the cylinder and looked it over and gave it a shake. This is just a casing, he said. There are words here underneath. Dark opens dark. Zale scowled. All this way, and I still can't get to the actual Grimstone. It's always one more step away. He didn't dare try opening it by force, assuming that could only make things worse. After a moment, though, he couldn't help but smirk. This must really be my ancestors' doing, Zale said. Only a true Macpherson would pile on failsafe upon failsafe in such maddening layers. He found a secure pocket for the cylinder within his coat and stuffed it inside. Come on, Boomer. Let's get out of here. Even though they knew what to expect, their walk back through the Shadow Age manifestation was just as unsettling as before. They jumped at every plume of darkfire off the path. They flinched at the flashes of lightning against the inky clouds. That still didn't prepare them for the icy remains of a human skeleton that floated down the stream just as they arrived. Likely yet another deterrent of Macpherson's, Zale told himself. It was disturbing just the same. They crossed that stream all the more carefully and made quick steps back to where they had first arrived. Soon they arrived back at the pond of dark water through which they had arrived. Zale moaned about having to enter it, but he also didn't want to remain in this place another minute. They jumped into the pond, sinking into its blackness, and the undercurrent took them. As hoped, they emerged back into the sweet, wonderful natural light of day. They climbed out of the shadowy grass as though it were water, and pulled themselves upon solid ground. Boomer immediately rolled about in the grass and dirt like a dust-bathing dog, chittering in ecstasy. Boomer, we don't have time for that. Quickly now, back to the ship. Boomer stared up at Zale from the dirt, seeming in no particular hurry to move. Boomer!
Rakaka!
Boomer spat, springing to his feet. He bounded to a nearby tree and beat on it.
By the light, I swear you're more a feral critter than an anthropod,
Zale grumbled. They moved on, Boomer cackling from behind. Zale saw his ship sitting peacefully in the river as they emerged from the woods. He saw no one moving about the land around the ship and frowned. He grunted. I suppose they're all on board and ready to go.
Well and good, as we need to put this land to our backs post-haste.
He looked down at Boomer.
You're sure you want to stay with us, right? We're bound straight for Tuscany.
Boomer nodded fervently.
Yee, yee, Tusky, Rakaka.
Zale observed a great many burnt and exploded patches in the ground all around the riverbank. The evidence of significant action here was only more intense the closer he got. Much to his relief, he saw only the bodies of Grimkins and Gukanians scattered about and none from his crew. Of course, it was possible that any casualties had already been taken aboard the ship. It seemed that most of the cadavers, particularly the Grimkin ones, had been gathered and lined up in a rather strange fashion.
Things definitely got hairy out here,
Zale mumbled. He looked up at the Queenie and scratched his chin. All of the upper decks were completely empty. He felt a great sinking feeling in the pit of his stomach.
Something seems amiss here.
Cautiously, they walked up the gangplank. The ship itself didn't appear damaged in any way. It was quiet, eerily quiet. His boots clomped loudly upon the planks of the deserted deck. He drew the saber from his side. His cabin was empty. The galley and officers' cabins were empty.
Dear Elo,
he gasped.
Starlina!
He moved as fast as his legs would take him into the deck below. The berthing deck, with all the rowing benches and crew hammocks, was totally unoccupied. He continued farther into the hold, to the makeshift quarters of Yvette and his daughter. It was, as the rest of the ship, completely empty.
No!
He slammed his fist into a support beam. They returned to the main deck, hoping for some clue of what had happened. It didn't take long for Zale to notice Fulger's dagger stuck in the mast with a parchment pinned to the wood. The words of the page read,
Captain Murdoch, for you to see this letter, you must have returned to the ship. I know you hold the key to retrieving the Grimstone, if you don't have it already. I wish to reach a settlement with you. Pull the cord. Captain Rummy.
Then he saw it, small with distance but unmistakable. Seadred's ship, moored down the river. Zale found a thin rope draped over the port side railing. He yanked it. A tiny plume of black and purple smoke rose from beneath the rail, and then a sudden brightness filled his eyes from the land below. The violet flames of Darkfire were unmistakable. The corpses that had been arranged below ignited, and their arrangement became instantly clear. Amongst the death below, words came alive. They were like a fire in his retinas, kindling the rage that stirred within. Crew or Grimstone, the words spelled. Shortly after, more words appeared below this, not out of bodies but upon the ground. Murdoch's choice. From these words, more flames erupted, creating a trail of fire going away from the ship and into the west, in the direction of the mountains.
If Seadred thinks my crew will be held easily against their will, the old fool's got another think coming.
He glanced down, and the Novidian Annalase greeted him with a faint white glow. Beyond the ship, his eyes followed the Darkfire trail as far as they could see. With one last look at the luminous dagger, he stowed it in his coat. He drew a deep breath and smacked the rail, knowing what had to be done next.
Come on, Boomer. Let's go get our crew back.
As the Grimkins dragged Jensen and his mates roughly along, the brightness that had been sunlight eventually faded into darkness. The ground became rockier and bumpier. The sacks they had been captured in were of a strange, stretchy substance, which could not be simply ripped or broken. He was surprised with the ease at which the Grimkins pulled them without any beasts of burden to aid them. Perhaps it was something about these strange sacks that made it tenable. Jensen was yanked from his sack to the sound of much yelling and cursing from his crewmates. They had been taken into the large, cavernous expanse of a cave with a ledge high above an underground lake. Jensen emerged ready to fight, but that urge evaporated at what he saw. 3 Grimkins each held a captive member of the crew: Yvette, Rosh, and Starlina. Cutlasses were pressed threateningly against their throats.
"Try escapee,"
one of them hissed.
"and we kill 'ee."
"Starlina, it'll be okay," Jensen told her. The Grimkin holding Starlina screeched at him, its horrible sound echoing throughout the cave. It pointed up to the ledge above the lake.
Go!
There, the entire crew was bound together from their shoulders to the ground in lengths and layers of netting and rope, so tightly that they could barely move their arms and legs. Even worse, the Grimkins tied more rope around each of them individually, binding their arms to their sides. Yvette, Rosh, and Starlina were added last. "Are you all right?" Jensen asked. Starlina had been placed beside him. "I'm okay," she said. "Just a little flustered." Seadred strutted toward them.
"Well, well. All of Murdoch's crew in a nice package. What a position I be finding myself in."
"Rummy!"
shouted Dippy.
"You've gone utterly mad! The guild will not take lightly to the disappearance of an entire crew!" "You'll be the prime suspect," said Yancey. "I'd lop off your head if I were them."
"Ah," said Seadred, "but you're not. And as far as the guild is concerned, the unfortunate crew of Murdoch sailed through fog into a mess of sea stacks, ne'er to be heard from again."
"Sea stacks?" asked Rosh. "We'd never make that mistake, especially after the Korengar incident of 3202.
"Why are you debating this?" hissed Yvette. "He wants to drop us into an underground lake."
Seadred cackled with his dry voice.
Here I was all prepared with an army, while Murdoch's got none other than his usual bunch of crook-kneed barnacle munchers, and 2 females to boot.
He came around the netting until Starlina was in his view.
"What's this young poppet for? A bit of entertainment? Come now, lassie. Do you sing? Do you dance? Might be I'd have a place for a nice wench aboard the Iron Mermaiden, eh?"
Jensen swelled with wrath.
"Back away, you black-hearted traitor!"
Starlina stared directly into Seadred's eyes with a look of pure loathing.
"Not even in your dreams, you wretched filth."
Seadred shrugged.
"Suit yourself. What happens next will all depend on your ever-so-cunning captain."
"Captain Rummy," said Fulger, "you have no idea what you're dealing with in the Grimstone. Even to hold it is a danger to you, your ship, our land, and any other land in which it dwells. Its evil is unfathomable."
"Your words mean nothing to me. All we've to do now is wait for your dear captain. Please do stick around for when he arrives."
Cackling all the more, Rummy descended the ledge. Casper, who was situated between Yvette and Starlina, struggled about to move his arms.
Yvette,
He whispered urgently.
there's a tiny dirk in my beard. Can you get to it?
"You mean that's for real? I thought that was just a rumor," said Yancey.
It's for real, tied up under my chin. Can you get to it, Yvette?
"And just how am I supposed to do that?" Yvette asked. Rosh made a chomping motion with his teeth. Try biting it." "Are you crazy?" Yvette hissed.
Anyone else have any way to cut us out of here?
Casper asked. Negative mutterings answered him from throughout the crew. Yvette groaned. "Oh, I should have stayed in the fishing guild." Where is it exactly? Caspar tilted back his head.
In the back side of my beard, just below my chin. One slip knot tied around the hilt. It should come out with a firm enough tug.
Starlina pressed herself tighter into Jensen, a disgusted look on her face. I'm glad you didn't ask me to do that. Light's bane, said Jensen with a quiet laugh. That must have been difficult to get in there. Well, go on, urged Miles. Yeah, I want to move my arms again, added Yancey. Okay, I'm going, Yvette spat. She tried to position herself around the underside of Caspar's beard. You do wash under here, right? A few moments passed. Yvette's mouth groped awkwardly within the thick black and yellow hairs. I think I found it, she said. Well, can you bite it? What do you think I'm trying to do? She spat. Do I smell flowers? Caspar shifted uncomfortably.
I comb my beard with oils.
You mean like rose oil? Asked Rosh.
Lavender,
Caspar said.
most recently.
A wave of hushed snickers chorused throughout the crew. Oh, the things you're forced to admit in captivity, Yancey said. That's nice, said Yvette, still from under Caspar's chin. But this thing is tiny and, oh, there's so much hair. You've got to really chomp it, Rosh encouraged. But also real carefully so you don't lose it. Hey, just kiss her already, man, Wigglebelly said from somewhere behind them. All of you just shut up, Yvette said from within the beard. I think I've almost got it. Yvette grunted with effort while Caspar clenched his teeth in pain. Finally, Yvette emerged. The smallest dirk Jensen had ever seen dangled from her mouth. She let it go and caught it in her hand. There. She slapped it into Caspar's hand. Now you finish the job. Wigglebelly chuckled. Somebody nudged the great oaf.
Ow, what?
He yelped.
I'm just glad she found the little thing, man.
A pyre out of their own dead comrades. That's messed up, said Zale. He and Boomer followed the trail of Darkfire, careful not to touch it. It led them in a mostly northwest direction, toward the mountain range in the distance. I've heard stories about certain Grimkins of Acadia who believe it's an honor to receive cremation by shadowy flames. Before now, I never would have taken that so literally.
Yikaka! Shashafer!
Said Boomer, mock shivering. Zale nodded. Yes, shadow fires are cold, he smirked. Despite your best efforts, I'm actually starting to understand you. They arrived at the mouth of a cave just as the landscape transitioned into rolling foothills. The burning trail continued inside. Their path was covered in the dark fire's eerie, flickering purple light. Keep alert, Zale said quietly. They could be waiting to spring a trap. Soon the cave broadened, getting wider and wider until it was downright cavernous. It was here that the trail of Darkfire ended. He saw a large, crystal-clear lake. He saw the rocky ramp leading to a ledge high above the water. And he saw his crew bound together like an oversized bundle of firewood.
Captain! Captain!
Several members of his crew shouted.
Is everyone okay?
He called back, his voice reverberating in the cavern.
We're here, Captain!
Dippy said.
Yes, we're all here.
Spoke the crackly voice of Garrick Rummy. His ugly mug appeared from a shadow of the cave.
And you, Murdoch, or Macpherson, I should say, have ye the Grimstone?
I take it you haven't already found it then, Zale asked. Seadred's eyes narrowed.
Don't be playing games with me. You clearly weren't with your crew when we paid our little visit. So we'll make this very simple.
He held out his hand.
Hand it over, and your crew lives to see tomorrow.
Rummy, you can't seriously mean to shove an entire crew from your own guild into a lake just to win a single bounty. Seadred gave a slight tilt of his head.
It's nothing personal, Murdoch. Just business.
Zale held his saber before him.
Let them go, Garrick.
What can you do, Zale?
Seadred said with a cackle.
Will you fight me in a gaggle of grimkins with naught but your blade and an overgrown bilge rat?
Boomer hissed. Zale heard some shuffling along the walls. The rest of Rummy's Grimkin army, around 20, was spread throughout the cave. Zale would not take their smaller numbers for granted. Clearly even this many had managed to subdue and capture his entire crew.
Your hired army's a lot smaller since I last saw you.
I assure you, this is the most ruthless of the lot. Everyone armed with burn.
Even if I had the Grimstone to give you, said Zale, I have no reason to trust you'd let us go.
Aye, you know me well enough, Zale. I give you this assurance. Hand it over, and I will leave back to me ship with half me forces. We'll even take all the burn with us. You'll remain here, and half an hour later the remaining Grimkins will free your crew. This way there'll be no chasing me down before I get to me ship. It's the best I can do, you'll understand, given the circumstances.
Zale seethed at what Rummy was doing. Carefully, he tried to consider his options. He looked around at the Grimkins. One of them, dressed in dark red, wore a particularly deep glare. It kept its comrades steady with a motion of its arm. Zale realized this was their leader. He looked all about the cavern, as though a panacea might suddenly appear to him. He ran his hand down his coat, perhaps a signal of nerves to Rummy, and felt the items still tucked within. He looked up at his crew and made eye contact with Casper and Yvette and others who were watching him back. It was time to make his move.